help break it all down, let's go to Mercedes Colwin, trial attorney and co-host of M&M in the Morning podcast, and Claudia Colon, attorney and jury consultant. Ladies, only the smartest to have here tonight to talk about this. Okay, Mercedes, you first. How did the prosecutors do in that 5-hour closing today after this long case?
They did an excellent job of threading the needle. It's so difficult because you can imagine 5 weeks of testimony, 34 witnesses, they have to bring it home. And how do they do that? They start with the charges and they start going charge by charge, because when the jurors get that verdict form, they're going to have to go through those charges during the deliberation process. So that's the way the prosecution did. Starting first with the toughest criminal part is racketeering. It had to show how this was a criminal enterprise. Who were the enablers? He had employees, he had security, he had assistants.
And they said they knew, not only knew what was going on, they enabled it. They went out and bought his drugs for him. They arranged, you know, hotel rooms to be lined with blankets and sheets and stocked with cases of baby oil.
And punished Cassie Ventura when she wasn't compliant, taking her devices, taking her passports. These were things that these enablers did, the security did, when they took some of her devices. So that punishment came in. But the other parts, I think they did a really good job. The other charges are easier. Obviously, sex trafficking is one of the easiest ones.
Claudia, the defense gets its shot tomorrow, but they didn't even present a case. I mean, they did nothing. They didn't call a single witness to the stand. Why? What is that? Is that supreme confidence, or can you explain what the tactic here is?
I think it is that the defense position tomorrow, when they do their closing argument, is going to be the government has this high bar they need to meet beyond a reasonable doubt. And I think the reason that they didn't bring a witness and they didn't bring, you know, for example, somebody to counter their expert on the psychology of abuse is because they're confident that their cross-examinations revealed what they were looking to reveal, which is basically to impeach the witnesses, catch inconsistencies. I don't know if you recall the testimony about the balcony that didn't quite line up for that witness.
No, there was one witness that was definitely problematic.
Right,
they caught a lot of consistencies.
They're going to target that in their closing statement, and I think the theme of not having their own witnesses is kind of supporting that argument of there's no case here. They have not met their burden.
Do you agree with that, Mercedes? And what do you think the defense needs to do tomorrow in their closing argument?
That jury is going to say to themselves, wait a minute, we've been here for 8 weeks and you give us 30 minutes of a defense? Yes, I think those are great arguments, Claudia, but as a defense attorney, you have to be respectful to that body of jurors that are sitting there, suspending their entire lives for this case. At a minimum, bring the expert. Dr. Hughes was a great expert for the prosecution who really walked down. She was the one who testified in the Weinstein trial.
And explained why women stay with their abusers,
exactly.
Why Cassie Ventura stayed with Sean Combs for 10 years.
Which was so critical, because everyone's questioning, like, how could you have possibly stayed in this remarkably abusive relationship, including what they saw, the 2016 abuse and beating that we've all seen in that video, which is so disturbing. At least put one witness up and give some respect due to the jury.
Claudia, how critical are the closing arguments? I've always heard the saying that the jury often decides, either it makes up their mind after opening arguments. Are closing arguments just as important as opening?
They definitely are. And it's true. There is some truth that when the jurors come in and they watch opening arguments, they have some sense of where they're leaning. And in fact, when they go into the deliberation rooms, the first thing they're going to do probably is take a straw poll of how everybody's leaning. But closing arguments are critically important because now they've seen all the evidence. They know what the claims are, but they haven't connected everything to how they fall within the elements. And that's going to be the job of the prosecution. That's what they were supposed to do today. Provide a roadmap for the jurors so that when they go into that deliberation room, they know exactly how they're connecting the facts that they saw to each of the elements that they have to decide. And then the defense, on the flip side, poke holes into those facts.
Reasonable doubt.
Exactly.
Reasonable doubt.
Exactly.
All right, what's both of your sense on how long the jury's going to take to reach a verdict?
I would say they're going to take the weekend and come back on Monday. If they come back tomorrow...
You think they'll start deliberating tomorrow?
Yeah, I think they'll start deliberating. They will probably get the instructions by the end of the day, and maybe the deliberations will start on Monday. The verdict will probably take... Look, as a defense attorney, you want it back quick because you're like, all right,
the longer it takes, the more nervous you get.
Yes.
What do you think, Claudia?
Well, I think it's a good thing that they're starting probably on Monday because they'll be fresh. You know, they'll be ready to take this on. They are gearing to get into that deliberation room. They've been looking at evidence for the past
And they haven't been able to talk to each other about it.
They can't talk to each other. This is the first time they can. They are ready to go. Hard to say how long they'll take. If it's quick, it's alarming because it's either quick, acquittal or conviction. So we don't really know how long they'll take.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.